Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell here. Welcome back to my channel Science of Healing. Today I want to talk to you about something extremely important, especially if you're over the age of 60, and that is muscle loss, also known as sarcopenia. Most people believe muscle loss is just a normal part of aging. It is not. Yes, muscle mass declines with age, but how fast it declines depends heavily on what you eat every single day. Now, for years, people have been told that bone broth is the solution. Bone broth is fine for joints and gut health, but when it comes to rebuilding muscle, it falls very short. There is one food that outperforms bone broth by a wide margin when it comes to stopping muscle loss and rebuilding strength, and almost everyone overlooks it. That food is eggs. Whole eggs. And here's why this matters. After the age of 60, your body becomes resistant to protein. This is called anabolic resistance. That means you need higher quality protein, not just more protein. After the age of 60, something silent begins to happen inside the body, and most people never see it coming. Muscles don't just weaken overnight, they slowly disappear, fiber by fiber, strength by strength, until everyday movements feel heavier than they should. Standing up from a chair takes effort. Climbing stairs steals your breath. Balance becomes uncertain, and society tells you this is normal, that aging means shrinking, slowing, surrendering. But the science tells a very different story. Sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss, is not an unavoidable destiny. It is a biological process that can be slowed, stopped, and in many cases partially reversed when the body receives the right signals. The tragedy is not aging itself. The tragedy is that millions are losing muscle unnecessarily because they were never told the truth. Research shows that adults over 60 can lose up to 1% of muscle mass every single year if nothing is done. That may not sound dramatic, but over a decade, it can mean the difference between independence and dependency. Muscle is not just for movement. It is a metabolic organ. It regulates blood sugar, protects joints, supports posture, and even influences immune function. When muscle disappears, the risk of falls doubles. Hip fractures become more likely. Hospitalization increases, and once an older adult is confined to a bed, muscle loss accelerates at a frightening speed. Studies show that just 1 week of bed rest in older adults can erase years of muscle strength. This is why the idea that muscle loss is just aging is not only wrong, it is dangerous. Here is the shocking truth backed by decades of research. Aging muscles do not lose the ability to grow. They lose sensitivity to poor signals. Scientists call this anabolic resistance. As we age, muscles require stronger, clearer nutritional and mechanical signals to rebuild. When those signals are weak or incomplete, muscles stay dormant. But when the signals are strong enough, muscle protein synthesis still turns on, even in people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Clinical trials have repeatedly shown that older adults who consume high-quality protein and engage in even modest resistance activity can increase muscle mass and strength. This is not theory. This is measured science using muscle biopsies, nitrogen balance studies, and functional strength testing. One of the most misunderstood facts about sarcopenia is that eating some protein is not enough. Older adults often eat too little protein, and when they do eat it, it is often low quality or poorly distributed throughout the day. Research from leading gerontology journals shows that many adults over 60 fail to reach the leucine threshold required to trigger muscle protein synthesis at meals. Without reaching that threshold, muscles simply do not respond. They stay silent. This is why so many older adults say, "I eat, but I'm still getting weaker." It is not a lack of effort. It is a lack of the right signal. Another uncomfortable truth is that inactivity compounds the problem. Muscle is use-dependent tissue. When it is not challenged, the body breaks it down to save energy. This made sense thousands of years ago during famine, but in the modern world, it works against us. Sitting for long periods sends a powerful message to the body that muscle is no longer needed. Combine inactivity with low-quality nutrition, and sarcopenia accelerates. But reverse either one, and the body begins to respond. Reverse both, and the results can be dramatic. Studies have shown that older adults performing simple resistance exercises just 2 to 3 times per week experience significant gains in strength, walking speed, and balance. These are not athletes. These are everyday people reclaiming their bodies. What makes this even more compelling is that muscle health is directly tied to longevity. Large population studies have found that muscle strength is a stronger predictor of survival than body weight or even blood pressure in older adults. Weak muscles are associated with higher mortality, independent of age. Stronger muscles mean better glucose control, reduced inflammation, and improved hormone signaling. Muscle acts like a reservoir that protects the body during illness or stress. When infection or injury strikes, people with more muscle recover faster and survive at higher rates. This is why preserving muscle after 60 is not about appearance. It is about survival. Yet despite this overwhelming evidence, many older adults are still told to take it easy, to avoid exertion, to accept weakness as natural. This advice, though well-intentioned, steals years of functional life. The body was designed to adapt at every age. Muscles do not have an expiration date. What they need is stimulation and nourishment. Even people in their 90s have shown the ability to gain strength when given proper training and nutrition. This has been documented in nursing home studies where frail elderly participants increased muscle size and walking ability after structured intervention. If muscle can respond there, it can respond almost anywhere. The emotional cost of sarcopenia is rarely discussed. Loss of muscle leads to loss of confidence. People stop trusting their bodies. Fear of falling creates isolation. Isolation accelerates decline. It becomes a vicious cycle. But when strength returns, even modestly, something profound happens. Posture improves. Movement becomes smoother. Independence feels possible again. This is not just physical change. It is psychological restoration. And it begins with understanding that muscle loss is not a life sentence. Aging is inevitable. Sarcopenia, at its severe form, is not. The human body is far more resilient than we have been led to believe. When science strips away the myths, one message becomes clear. Muscles after 60 are not broken. They are understimulated and undernourished. Change the signal and the body listens. This is not wishful thinking. It is measurable biology. And for millions of people, understanding this truth could mean the difference between merely surviving old age and truly living it. For years, bone broth has been praised as the miracle solution for aging bodies. It's warm, comforting, and wrapped in ancient tradition. People drink it believing they are rebuilding strength, restoring youth, and protecting their muscles from time itself. But here is the uncomfortable truth that science reveals. When it comes to stopping muscle loss and rebuilding strength after 60, bone broth is dramatically overrated. In fact, relying on it may be quietly holding millions of people back because muscle does not respond to comfort foods. Muscle responds to specific biological signals, and bone broth does not provide the signal aging muscles need. Muscle growth and repair depend on one central process called muscle protein synthesis. This is not guesswork. Scientists can measure it directly in human muscle tissue. To activate this process, the body requires essential amino acids in the right proportions, especially one called leucine. Leucine is the molecular trigger. It is the spark that turns on the machinery that rebuilds muscle fibers. Without enough leucine in a meal, muscle protein synthesis remains muted, especially in older adults. This is where bone broth fails. Bone broth is primarily collagen, and collagen is incomplete protein. It lacks sufficient leucine and several essential amino acids required for muscle repair. You can drink cup after cup, and the muscle-building switch never fully flips on. Now compare that to eggs. Whole eggs are one of the most leucine-rich natural foods available. One large egg contains a concentrated dose of high-quality protein with a complete amino acid profile. This matters more after 60 than at any other time in life. Aging muscles develop anabolic resistance, meaning they require stronger nutritional signals to respond. Research published in clinical nutrition journals shows that older adults need higher leucine density per meal to stimulate muscle protein synthesis compared to younger people. Eggs meet this requirement efficiently and consistently. Bone broth does not even come close. But the difference goes deeper than amino acids alone. Eggs have what scientists call high biological value. This means the body can absorb and use nearly all of the protein they provide. Studies comparing different protein sources show that egg protein is absorbed and utilized more effectively than many plant proteins, and even some meats in older adults. This is not about trends or preferences. This is about how the human body actually works under the microscope. When researchers measure muscle protein synthesis after meals, eggs repeatedly outperform lower quality protein sources. Here is a fact that surprises many people. Whole eggs stimulate more muscle growth than egg whites alone. This has been proven in controlled human trials. The yolk contains fats, vitamins, and bioactive compounds that enhance how the body uses the protein. Vitamin D in egg yolks plays a role in muscle strength and function. Choline supports neuromuscular signaling, allowing muscles to contract efficiently. B vitamins, especially B12, are essential for nerve health and energy metabolism. Bone broth lacks these nutrients in meaningful amounts. It may support joints and gut lining, but muscle is a different tissue with different demands. The consequences of misunderstanding this are serious. Sarcopenia is not just about weakness. It increases the risk of falls, fractures, and loss of independence. Studies show that muscle weakness is one of the strongest predictors of disability and mortality in older adults. And yet many people believe they are protecting themselves by sipping collagen-rich broths while avoiding foods like eggs due to outdated cholesterol fears. Large-scale studies now show that eggs do not increase cardiovascular risk in most people and often improve HDL cholesterol, the protective kind. The fear of eggs has cost many older adults their strength. Another shocking reality is how little protein older adults typically consume at breakfast. Research consistently shows that breakfast is the weakest protein meal of the day, yet it is the most important time to stimulate muscle protein synthesis after overnight fasting. Eggs fit perfectly into this window. Just 2 or 3 whole eggs at breakfast can provide enough leucine to cross the muscle-building threshold. Bone broth cannot do this, no matter how much you drink. Volume does not replace quality when it comes to muscle. There is also the issue of satiety and blood sugar. Eggs stabilize blood glucose and reduce insulin spikes, which protects muscle tissue from breakdown. Chronic blood sugar swings accelerate muscle loss through inflammation and hormonal disruption. Eggs help prevent this. Bone broth, while low in calories, does not provide the metabolic support needed to protect muscle over time. Muscle thrives in a stable internal environment, not one driven by sugar and refined carbohydrates consumed later due to inadequate nutrition earlier in the day. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from intervention studies. When older adults are given high-quality protein sources rich in leucine and combined with light resistance activity, muscle mass and strength increase measurably. Walking speed improves. Chair riseability improves. Balance improves. These are not cosmetic outcomes. These are life-preserving changes. Eggs consistently appear in dietary protocols designed to combat sarcopenia because they work. Bone broth rarely does when muscle is the primary goal. This does not mean bone broth has no place. It can support connective tissue, hydration, and gut health. but mistaking it for a muscle-building food is a critical error. Muscle is expensive tissue for the body to maintain. It will not be preserved on incomplete signals. Eggs send a clear, unmistakable message to aging muscles: rebuild, repair, survive. The most dangerous myth is that muscle loss after 60 is unavoidable. The second most dangerous myth is that all protein is equal. Science has dismantled both. Eggs are not trendy. They are not exotic. They are simply one of the most effective tools we have to protect strength, independence, and quality of life as we age. When people replace fear with evidence and comfort with action, muscles respond. And in that response lies the difference between frailty and resilience, between dependence and freedom, between merely aging and aging with strength. After 60, the human body does not fail because it is old. It fails because the signals it receives are no longer strong enough. Muscles are not passive tissue. They are listeners. Every day they wait for instructions, signals that tell them whether to grow, to stay, or to disappear. And one of the most powerful signals they respond to is food. Not just calories, not just protein, but the right kind of nourishment delivered in the right way. This is where whole eggs become more than food. They become a message that aging muscles can still hear loud and clear. Inside every muscle cell is a molecular switch known as mTOR, the master regulator of muscle protein synthesis. When this switch turns on, muscle fibers repair and rebuild. When it stays off, muscle quietly wastes away. In younger bodies, this switch flips easily. In older bodies, it becomes stubborn. Scientists call this anabolic resistance, and it is one of the main drivers of sarcopenia. The shocking part is this: aging does not turn the switch off. It just raises the threshold required to activate it. Most meals consumed by older adults never reach that threshold. The signal is too weak. The muscle does not respond. Whole eggs, however, consistently cross that line. The reason is leucine. Leucine is not just another amino acid. It is the key that unlocks muscle growth. Research shows that leucine directly activates mTOR and initiates muscle protein synthesis. Older adults require a higher leucine dose per meal than younger people, yet most diets fail to provide it. Whole eggs deliver a concentrated, highly bioavailable source of leucine in a form the body recognizes immediately. When researchers compare meals with equal calories but different protein quality, eggs trigger a significantly stronger muscle-building response. This has been confirmed through tracer studies that track how dietary protein is incorporated into muscle tissue. The muscle does not lie, but eggs do more than flip one switch. They coordinate an entire system. Muscle contraction depends on healthy nerve signaling. Egg yolks are rich in choline, a nutrient essential for acetylcholine production, the neurotransmitter that tells muscles to move. Without adequate choline, muscle strength and coordination decline. This connection between nutrition and neuromuscular function is rarely discussed, yet it becomes critical with age. Add vitamin B12, also abundant in eggs, which protects nerve fibers and prevents the numbness and weakness that often masquerade as old age. These are not separate problems. They are part of the same system breaking down or being restored. Then there is vitamin D. Low vitamin D levels are strongly associated with muscle weakness, poor balance, and increased fall risk in older adults. Studies show that vitamin D deficiency accelerates muscle fiber atrophy, particularly in the legs. Egg yolks provide a natural dietary source of vitamin D, reinforcing muscle strength from the inside out. When eggs are consumed regularly, they support not just muscle mass, but muscle function, which is what truly preserves independence. What makes this signal even more powerful is timing. After an overnight fast, muscle protein synthesis is at its lowest point of the day. Breakfast becomes a critical opportunity to send a strong anabolic message. Yet most older adults eat little protein in the morning, relying instead on carbohydrates that spike blood sugar, but fail to stimulate muscle repair. Eggs change this completely. Consuming 2 to 3 whole eggs at breakfast delivers enough leucine and complete protein to awaken dormant muscle tissue. Research shows that evenly distributing high-quality protein across meals leads to greater muscle retention than consuming most protein at dinner. Eggs make this possible. Movement completes the message. Muscle responds best when nutrition and mechanical stimulation work together. Even light resistance, standing from a chair, walking uphill, carrying groceries, sensitizes muscle cells to protein. Studies demonstrate that older adults who combine adequate protein intake with modest physical activity experience amplified muscle protein synthesis compared to either intervention alone. Eggs provide the raw materials. Movement tells the body where to use them. Together they form a biological conversation that aging muscles still understand. The emotional impact of this cannot be overstated. When muscles respond, people feel it quickly. Standing feels easier. Steps feel lighter. Balance improves. Fear recedes. Confidence returns. Research links improved muscle strength with reduced depression and improved cognitive function in older adults. The body and mind are not separate systems. Strength restores agency. Agency restores hope. One of the most dangerous myths is that older bodies are fragile and must be protected from challenge. In reality, they must be protected from neglect. Muscle thrives on purpose. When eggs are removed from the diet due to outdated cholesterol fears, and when protein is replaced with refined carbohydrates, the signal fades. Muscles interpret this as a command to shrink. Large population studies now show that egg consumption is not associated with increased cardiovascular risk in most individuals and may even support metabolic health. The cost of avoiding eggs has been paid in weakness, not longevity. Perhaps the most profound evidence comes from intervention trials in older adults, including those well into their 70s and 80s. When high-quality protein sources like eggs are introduced consistently, muscle mass increases, strength improves, and functional performance rises. Walking speed, a key predictor of survival, improves. Chair rise time shortens. These are not subtle changes. They are measurable markers of regained life capacity. Muscles are not relics of youth. They are living tissue responding to daily instructions. Whole eggs deliver one of the clearest, most complete instructions available to the aging body: rebuild, stabilize, endure. When combined with movement and consistency, they help rewrite the narrative of aging from inevitable decline to adaptive resilience. This is not about chasing youth. It is about preserving function, dignity, and independence. The signal is simple, the science is clear, and the body, even after 60, is still listening.